If you are not seen, if you are not heard, you do not exist. Those are the words of a former NTNU rector. They may be harsh, but they may also be true. Welcome to today's Science Conversations at NTNU. Today we'll be discussing the topic, why make your research visible? And with me today, I have three very interesting persons. They are at different stages in their career. They come from different fields of research, but they have all chosen to take an active role in making research visible. Egil Tjåland, you work at the Faculty of Engineering and have been head of department for many years. When did it stop not being enough publishing one's findings in research journals and going to conferences?
I think it's extremely important to have the outreach as a main motivation for publishing your results. Show that what you're doing is relevant. Meet colleagues, build networks, and make yourself and others proud of what you are actually doing. That is the main motivation from my point of view.
I like the pride part of it. That's very interesting. Gunn-Berit Nergård, you're from the Faculty of Economics and Management, and you've very recently finished your PhD within entrepreneurships. And did you know from the very beginning that you wanted to make your research visible, or was it something just that grew on you?
Oh, it definitely grew on me, yeah. I actually remember sitting on the ferry called Hurtigruten, traveling in Norway, and it just struck me that I am having this job because of the taxpayers in Norway, and I really wanted to share some of my work with the people around me. So I just started to share with family and friends, and then it grew.
And do you feel the pride?
Oh, definitely, yeah, I do.
Siv Gøril Brandsegg, you're an associate professor at the Faculty of Humanities, and you researched a very particular way of communicating a message, like skilling songs from the last 400 years. What is research visibility to you?
I think it's being present, the presence of scholars in the community, whether that's a research community, whether it's a student community or a broader community, which I think is what we're sort of trying to discuss today. That presence is extremely important, being present.
Being present. Do you recognize this, Egil, the presence, the importance of it?
Absolutely. It's important to kind of give the results as they are made, because it's the world out there waits for results to appear, and you just have to be active, coming out with the results as they are made. At the department that I led for many years, I saw this huge variety of research over many fields, and I saw that the network was actually built up by presenting this through various social media channels and others. So, yeah.
Gunn-Berit, Egil mentioned results.
Yeah.
But you have been sort of communicating throughout the research. Did you wait for the results, or how do you think about that?
Definitely. I as a young researcher and as a PhD student, you actually don't have many results to show. So when I started showing my research process, it was definitely the process and not the results. And I even participated in research shows like Forsker Grand Prix and showed the process and not the end results, because I didn't have them at the time. And I think that showing the process of our research, how we do research, is just as important as showing the end result.
What about you, Siv Gøril? Do you show the process or the results, or both?
Well, both, but I think it's a misunderstanding that formidling or outreach comes at the very end of your research. It's I think of it more of a sort of organic process where it's back and forth between your your writing room, your seminar room, and the public sphere. And often, I have found on many occasions that the public, the broader public, can actually also give parts of the puzzle. A sort of crowdsourcing approach to research has worked very well in my current project. And it's very rewarding for the public to feel that they're part of the process. You're inviting them in. I think that's one of the keys to förmedling or outreach, basically. And also to think of it more of as a sort of bottom-up rather than a top-down model. So who are you doing outreach for? Is it the head of your department? No, it's the public. And I think that's important when you think about who you're doing it for and why you're doing it.
But you've been head of department for many years, Egil. Do you like that? What do you think about this? Researchers, should they also do it for you?
Do you mean as a head of the department?
Yes.
We do it for the whole of NTNU, of the faculty, of the department, and for yourself. It's the entity. So it's not for me, it's for us as a group. I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, most of our research has not been able to be presented at conferences. But that was a big opportunity, actually, for us to train, let's say, the PhD candidates, to do videos, to show their results, to do pitching and all that, and present it on social media, because that was the channel during the pandemic. So actually, it's possible always to think of which things which are not so good can actually be turned out to be something really good. In that case, I think we have trained tens and tens of PhD candidates now to be ready for the conferences that will soon be there. They're trained. They know how to act. They know how to discuss things and to pitch and so on.
Have you had that sort of training, Berit?
I have been interested in communications for a long time ago. I studied it also in high school, for instance. So it's been a passion of mine for a long time. I think that more important than training is passion and to be authentic. So especially when you're using social media, people are thinking when they're opening an account and looking through your profile, they want to see a human being. And I think it's important that us as researchers show that, we are like anyone else. We're just humans and we have this job that is a bit special. And I think it's important to show that job with its ups and downs. So I have showed my followers, for instance, my 5th reject, even though it's harsh and even though it's a bit embarrassing. And but it's a part of the game, and I think that that's worth telling.
Siv Gøril mentioned sort of a broader audience. Who are your specific target groups?
Yeah, well, my target group is quite specific because I'm a nurse and I've studied entrepreneurship, and also my PhD is about nurses becoming entrepreneurial. So I try through Instagram to reach out to nurses student, and also nurse faculty. And within this group, I want to reach out to those who are interested in ways of becoming entrepreneurial, combining healthcare and innovation, for instance. And I find my audience in this social platform, and I find that very fun. And it gives me a lot to talk to fellow nurses through social media. And they give me a lot of inspiration as well. Like you said, that you can actually get inspiration for your research. You can get tips and tricks. You can have input to who to interview in your next research project. So it's actually a two-sided communication, and that's very valuable by using new platforms.
How about you, Siv Gøril? Have you experienced this, the outreach activity actually influencing your research?
No, absolutely. When I write blog posts, I mean, the blog is in itself a sort of living organism. So my research blog, I sometimes ask questions to the public. Does anyone know who this person in this ballad is? And I always get mails, sometimes many mails, and then I give a little thank you afterwards, and it's certainly a two-way thing. But I'm also going to second what you said about authenticity and transparency, because I think those are two important keywords. That being transparent, so allowing the public to participate in the process of your research, showing some of the failures you've had, but also the point about you can't fake it. I mean, this target audience or whatever, you can't stand there and talk about something you don't know about. The knowledge needs to be there, and the passion will come from knowing a lot about the subject that you're interested in. But I have on a few occasions felt uncomfortable, having said yes to something that is maybe beyond my field a little bit, and that's when things start to crumble a little bit. So I would say that you can't just stand up and talk about anything. But you might disagree, I don't know. That's my feeling anyway.
But I'd like to pick up on what you said about or target groups, because you get feedback from people on skilling ballads. And I'm just guessing, but that might be quite a narrow group. Are you addressing also a broader audience, or is it a small group?
Oh, it's a broad. You have no idea how many interested people there are out there. No, I mean that. I think I've even gone so far with my outreach so as to sort of tweak my research a little bit in that direction. So I've always, or for the past 15 years, I've focused on genres that have been marginalized by, the literary community. So Skillingsvisor or Skilling ballads are one of those genres that hasn't been any research, there hasn't been any interest from the academic community, but there is interest in the public. So there are quite many, musicians, local historians, genealogists that are interested in that as a topic. So that has reached out to a fairly broad audience because of the subject is of a public interest. But of course, that's not the case in most, in most fields. It's fairly narrow, specialized, and it I guess, appeals naturally more to a more closed academic community who are in the know, so to speak.
So how about your target groups, Egil?
Yes, very interesting what you say there, because if you have, let's say you have a topic which is quite narrow, then typically you will publish in certain journals, right, that maybe if you read, I don't know. But if you go out and publish this also, or do an outreach through various media outlets, then with a link to that magazine, you may get other people to click in on that, and then you may have that, whatever is called cross-fertilization, that you start to maybe find someone who actually can bridge over from their discipline into your discipline. But you have no idea when this will happen or if it will happen, but you maximize maybe or optimize the chance for that to be happening. So therefore, it's a little bit unpredictable what's going on here. I think that is the main thing about social media. You don't really know what happens. You start something and you hope that this could maybe grow to something bigger than where you started. So, and I like that kind of dynamics. It's kind of exciting, and I've seen quite a lot of examples where things can just balloon into something different.
Yeah. You had a comment?
Oh yes, I just want to say that also some seeds won't grow, and that's okay too, especially in this social media sphere where everything is competing for our interest. And then we just have to continue seeding. We have to continue put things out there and share our knowledge, because after maybe 10 posts, something will reach out to someone. I think so. Don't be disappointed if you're not having more than 13 likes in a post. I mean, that's okay.
13 likes is good.
Yes, exactly.
So you wouldn't say that some user groups are more valuable than others, because you never know what's going to happen, right? Or is it?
Yeah, you don't know what will happen. You get into a kind of an ecosystem that makes where the possibilities are. I give you one example. I run a class in experts in field. What is it called? Experts in Teamworks, which is called Virtuality Village, which is one I've run for many years. And when I saw that, I think around 2006, that YouTube was coming up there, I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great to take what we discuss now, to do the same thing with the students' work. This is fourth year students. They do a lot of work throughout 14 weeks. It becomes a report that nobody reads. No. And then why not make a 3 minutes pitch of that? And I published it on YouTube, and I've done that since then. So, and then you see that actually suddenly people start to look at that, and then the students, even the students, now we are talking about fourth year students, they start to get this published. And I don't know what will happen after that. Maybe they start companies, maybe they make patents, I don't know. But at least we give them the opportunity to reach out on a much wider audience, and YouTube is a big one, you know.
But so, talking of channels, so you use YouTube, LinkedIn, are those your main preferred channels of communication?
Right now, I've been LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, mostly. There's a limit how many you can kind of do in one time, because otherwise you cannot do other things. I mean, it takes a lot of time. And I think you also have to be kind of, you have to make a consistent kind of throughput of results there, so that the audience, if you like, the world, will take this seriously. And if you do that, I think you can grow kind of this channel of knowledge, if you like, but again, you don't know what will happen with the results, but hopefully it will build bigger networks and better world.
How about you, Gunn-Berit? What is your preferred channel of communication?
I use Instagram when communicating my research. I also use LinkedIn, but I don't post much there. So, and that's my main channel. Instagram.
So, do you have to be on all social media channels to do outreach?
I'm not on any social media channels, so no, you do not. Well, I'm on Facebook. I sometimes link my research blogs to Facebook, and I can see that, you know, the number of readers then go up. But no, I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter even. So I'm not doing my job in that sense. So maybe the impact is not so big. But I have found that how I do it, the sort of organic process what I do is that if I have a good idea, if I've found something interesting, then I will write an essay and send it to a national newspaper, Klassekampen, Morgenbladet. And if you get that published, then the sort of wheels, they start turning, the ball is in the air. And if you're lucky, then you get published in that newspaper. It has a wide readership. And they go and check out your blog because they find it interesting. And maybe, if you're lucky, it's happened with me a handful of times, you get called up by NRK, P2 to talk in the radio. And then you have this sort of outreach ball that has started rolling in and by itself. And what also happens then is that if you do okay in that setting, in radio, for example, which I find to be quite a challenging medium, it's live like today, fairly sort of intimidating, but you get used to it, and then if you do okay, you might be contacted again, or you might even get a contact person in NRK saying, please tell us if you have any other interesting results. And then sometimes you do, and they don't respond, and then sometimes they respond, and the ball is up. So I have found that the sort of traditional, I guess, NRK is also an interactive medium, but the paper, people still read newspapers. Even the broader community reads newspapers. Yeah.
Could I comment on that, because it's very interesting what you say. I think what we're doing is high performance, not sport. But if you compare it with the guys who actually do high performance sport, we are dealing with the same thing here. And as you say, it can be quite intimidating to reach out through those channels like the newspapers, TV, radio, I don't know. And therefore, I think, first of all, it's the young people today it's easier for them to be on those channels because they are the millennials or later. And I think that this is one thing. And I think we also need to be aware of the challenges. You mentioned that it's challenging to be in such and such medium. For some people, it could be challenging for this, for some others. We should train our students or PhD, postdoc, whatever. All of us should be trained. And who can train us? Because we are not trained to do such things. Not me, at least. Maybe you did some courses, so you have a little bit back. But I actually... So I think we need to have specialists telling us what to do. I mean, and we have such people around us. But I would, now I'm talking a little bit to NTNU, just put a lot of efforts into getting all the good advices, all the tips and tricks and so on, in order to make more out of this. Because I'm sure that so many of our colleagues would like to be cited in newspapers, be there, but it's a little bit difficult. You don't know who to talk to. You don't know what should you do. Is it blah, blah, blah. But we have experts there. And I just strongly hope, I'm glad to be here. So yeah, there are experts around us here now. But to also get training for all our colleagues. That would then, that would be super duper.
Good, Berit, the other comment?
Yeah. I just want to say that I also think that we should celebrate the variety, that it's there is no better or worse when it comes to which medium to choose, I think. I think we should choose the medium that suits us. So for me, I like Instagram. I think it's a good mix of pictures, of sounds, of words. I can really be creative. For others, it would be a cool challenge to stand ahead of a camera and to actually be on TV or in a radio studio. So just find whatever kind of triggers you, that can make you happy and excited. I think that could be a good challenge to every one of our colleagues, actually. And I'm looking forward to see the future PhD candidate or researcher on TikTok from NTNU. I would like to see that. So a lot of my colleagues have asked me if I'm going to go there, but I'm not. Never ever. So I'm looking forward.
Sure?
Yes, I'm looking forward to see someone else go there.
It will probably be shortly, I'm sure.
I think so. Yeah.
Channel ready to be picked.
Can I just comment on something Egil said? Because I think that you're right, training. But rather than training, I think there is a lot of silent knowledge out there from people like... We have a responsibility, we who have succeeded with outreach. We have a responsibility of actually conveying our channels and how we do it, like we are doing right now. Because we shouldn't be hiding it. And because there's... Just like when you're newly employed or you teach for the first time, there's a lot of silent knowledge around, methods for teaching, etc. And methods for doing outreach should also maybe be conveyed. It's not obvious that you should know what to do, but the first thing you absolutely have to do the first time, if you haven't done any research, is to be proactive. I mean, you can't sit and expect anyone to know what you're doing unless you are actually, speaking out in whichever platform, whether that's in a newspaper or on Instagram or whatever.
Right, because high performance sport, you know what happens? If you have one success, then you suddenly see that there's another success right around the corner in the same kind of area, It's a little bit of the same thing. If we can do as you say, then you inspire others, and then you suddenly see that it starts to snowball. So I absolutely agree with you.
And I think also, if I can add, it's important that we, like with me, I sometimes have felt that I have had quite many requests from NRK, for example. It sounds like a luxury problem, and I'm not bragging about it, but sometimes it's my responsibility to send the ball to someone else who I imagine might be, wanting to go out there and doesn't know how to. So you need to be generous as well. I mean, we have a responsibility of being generous, of sharing the platforms or sharing our contact persons, which I have done, but haven't done enough, I think.
But I would like to pick up on something you said, Sigurd. You said the amount of people contacting you.
But it's not.
No, but still, outreach takes time. So I think it's hard to talk about outreach without talking about the negative sides. Have you, for instance, Gunn-Berit, experienced any negative sides?
It takes a lot of time. Yeah, it does. And whether, I've written for the website for Sykepleien, which is like a union magazine. And whether I write that kind of a text or if I write a super, super tiny text for Instagram, I spend so much time writing and, picking my words carefully, thinking it again and again. So it definitely, that's a downside. Also, managing maybe comments, or also if you're on social media, answering those who are following and who are asking questions. It's important to be kind of personal and to connect with those who want to reach out to you. So it does take a lot of time. Yeah.
Have you experienced any negative effects?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. But it's interesting. Maybe 2 years, right before the pandemic started, I was interviewed DirecTV, TV2, regarding some results we had on marine mining and values and so on and so forth. So I was just looking at the report that some of our colleagues had done, and I on DirecTV I said, wow, we have values there for billions, thousands of billions of kroner. And that was kind of great news, and it was big story all over the place. All newspapers started to print. We have found, NTNU has found 1,000 billion out there. And some people said, wow, that was pretty, So it was a success, Many clicks. The guy from TV2, wow, biggest click there was 600,000. So then I started to get feedback from colleagues around, and they said, what are you talking about? Where did you get that number from? And there was DirecTV, and it was a format where you don't have any possibility to edit it afterwards, it's just there. And but you see, so it was a success when it comes to outreach, all right? But of course, then I got criticism because it was too shallow. I just stated, because I had only one sentence, almost 2 sentences, very quick, So, but then I had the possibility. I went actually to NRK. They contacted me, and I had the chance, in a longer kind of argument, to tell the report had some uncertainties, and I could justify that. And later I could. So it was a success. I got criticism, and that is the hindsight, or But again, would I done it again? Most likely, but I may have been a bit more careful in my wordings. So that was an experience kind of thing that because all these kind of, it was the first time on DirecTV, so I hadn't tried that before.
Have you ever been afraid of your colleagues talking about you if you're out there in the media, or do they just cheer you on?
I've got very supportive colleagues, I have to say, but I have experienced something similar, but only in a much smaller scale. That thing where your research sort of go into this tabloid format in order to create clicks, that's quite uncomfortable, and that is certainly the flip side of doing outreach. You're not in control of what journalists might actually. One of the headlines from a panel debate that I was in charge of once was, "Crime is very bad fiction." That was the headline, and that was not representative of the conversation we had about literary quality, but that was one of the speakers said that. And then the problem wasn't necessarily reproach from colleagues or anything like that, but it was more, I then felt that I helped build the wall between me and the broader public, which I'm constantly trying to tear down. Crime is very bad literature. No, it's not. So that's the worst story that I have in terms of. But otherwise, it's mainly a positive thing. You're out of your comfort zone. And you need to go out of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is your office, your home office, your writing cave, your seminar room. And it is scary the first times, but then you get used to it and you become more comfortable in that zone, I think.
We have spoken with someone who wants to help researchers get out of their comfort zone and into the unknown of outreach and benefit from it. Julius Wiche works at the Faculty of Humanities, and he's a researcher at the Department of Interdisciplinary Studies of Culture. He is more than a little engaged in science communication and public outreach. Among other things, he has founded the Science Communication Accelerator podcast with the goal to spread the knowledge of science communication. Let's hear what he has to say.
What is the slogan of NTNU? The slogan of NTNU is Kunskap for a bättre Werden, which translates to knowledge for a better world. If we as researchers at NTNU work on so many crazy, interesting and valuable things and then we don't talk about them, what we do is definitely not delivering on the slogan and the aim of what NTNU is and what NTNU wants to be. So that's why I think it's super important that actually we engage in communicating our research to society, because only then society is educated enough, or at least has access to knowledge in order to make smart and good decisions to actually build a better world and use the knowledge that we create. One key way to communicate the research that we do, not just among our peers, but actually to a broader society or to decision makers, is to talk about it online. And despite all its shortcomings, social media is the thing what's just there, and that gives us so many opportunities. And despite all its negative side effects, which I'm aware completely, it is still the best thing that could have happened to science communication. There's 4 ways how you can make your knowledge available online. You can either write about it, you can make an audio file about it, meaning podcast, you can make videos, or you can make graphics. And what is important if you and when you want to start engaging in science communication or get better at science communication is to think about what is the format that fits you best. Are you good at writing? Write. Are you good at video making? Make that. If you're good at talking and you just enjoy company, make a podcast. And if you're good at making knowledge available through graphics and photos and photos, then that's what you should do. So please do me the favor and use this webinar here also to get inspired and to actually start accumulating knowledge about it, to see where you are best and then decide which of the formats is most fitting to you and then make it available. Because science communication shouldn't be a thing that stresses you, but should be something that comes naturally out of you. And I think that only happens if you choose the format that is right for you. If you have any questions, probably here in this webinar there's some people who can help you and support you, and if not, you can also hit me up, and I'm always very happy to talk about science communication and to jam about it. Take care, have a good webinar, see you soon.
Thanks. So we've gotten a question from the audience. Do the panelists earn money when doing outreach? How about you, Gun-Berit? Are you rich now?
No, definitely not. But I have earned money on outreach because I sometimes get questions for, let's say, conferences or to have webinars or, to be a presenter in settings that are quite far off from my daily work as was a PhD candidate at NTNU. And then I have asked for an amount of money, to do that kind of work, because it's a tremendous work to prepare for a setting like that. And it's often several days' work.
Okay. How about the rest of you?
It varies. I think I earned more money before I became a permanent employed person with a relatively good salary. I feel bad now taking money, but it depends who asks. I mean, if it's a small group of genealogists that doesn't have a budget, then obviously I won't be asking for money, or I won't expect to be offered any money. And I think it should be you know, we've talked about the organic nature of outreach. It is part of what we do in our positions when we are permanently employed. So per se, you shouldn't be asking for money. Sometimes you're offered money because there is money there, and you know, and then sometimes I say yes to money. Yeah, you can earn money from it. You can earn extra money like you do with external committee work, for example. So it's not, but I wouldn't say that it has at any point made me rich. No.
We have gotten another question from the audience about a very important topic. That's language. So do you share or communicate your research mainly in Norwegian, or do you also do it in other languages?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I normally actually present my my outreach in English. However, it is kind of it's not easy because sometimes there are certain newsletters, articles that are in Norwegian, which I share, and I have to just write, please look at this. This is super cool. Brackets in Norwegian. But then I know that there is Google Translate out there. It's easy for people if it's interesting enough to do just a Google Translate. I do that myself, at least, if I see something interesting in another language. So that is not, it doesn't stop me from sharing ideas. I think it happens that I do that also in Norwegian, that I share things in Norwegian, but I don't know the percentage of my LinkedIn followers, but a big proportion, they are not Norwegian. So, yeah.
Then I will address the second question to you as well. Does the choice of language impact your potential reach and potential cross-fertilization?
Yeah, definitely, because you have a broader audience. And since all Norwegians speak English very well, then that shouldn't be a problem. But it's a bigger problem if you have all your results in Norwegian and then try to communicate that out to the broad world. At least you need to say in brackets that it's in Norwegian, so they can do that translate. Of course, they can do that without me saying that. But you know, so I prefer to do that, not 100%, but quite often.
I'll address the next question to you, Gunn-Berit. How do you communicate knowledge from a very narrow and technical field? Do you have any tips and tricks?
I think it is important to, no matter what kind of field it is, to show the humans affected by it. So to show your target group that, you know, this will influence our lives in some ways, or this is important and why it is important. So to always have that human aspect when you're communicating your research, no matter how technical it is.
Can I join in on that? Because I completely agree. The passion is the important thing here. If you are doing something very, very specialized and you have a passion for it, I mean, that makes me at least interested. It could be anything. I mean, it's just if I see someone, what is that? I've never heard about it. I click on it. I don't know if I will continue reading more about it, but who knows?
Siv Gøril, next question is for you. What are the tips and tricks for research dissemination in a volatile political landscape?
Okay, well, I think that that's a very good question, because a very acutely relevant question, given the time we live in, which is a time where never before has knowledge-based research been under questioning and under pressure. From corrupt politicians to, you know, would-be experts who are actually just people with strong opinions. So it's more important than ever that we are present in, I think, on any platform to convey knowledge. I would say fearlessness is important here. That actually, I would think it's more precarious and worse in, say, England or the US when it comes to how much you want to how you dare enter the public sphere with your research, and they're under more pressure. And in Norway, if this is a question posed by, say, an international scholar who is not known with the Norwegian system, I would say it's not so volatile here. It's coming here. Questioning knowledge, questioning research-based knowledge is on its way, but it's not as bad as in other countries. So I would say you can still be bold here, and you are still listened to. So I guess being fearless is a sort of general advice.
Okay. Does anyone of you have a comment to that?
Yeah, no, I share your thoughts, and I guess just look for kind of truth. That is the important thing here. Is we are at a university where kind of truth, facts are kind of that is the important thing here. As long as you go for the truth, for the facts, for your beliefs, then I think you're on safe grounds. So then you don't need to have fear, but of course. You just have to do your work as you should, I guess.
I could also add that there was an interesting news story this week about the wolf researcher, and they brought up this question that people don't trust her research, even though she has been doing it for several years, maybe even decades. And I think that maybe consistency is one answer to your question, that she can show that, I've been here for years and I'm still researching this topic. I am very knowledgeable about it, and I am here no matter what kind of political government we have. She is influencing politics, but she's not influenced by politics. And I think that it was a very interesting case that we should read.
If I can add, because it was asked for tips and tricks, and that's a bit tricky to give, but I think being able to convey your research in a transparent and clear and simple language is important. I mean, it's important when you write a research article. Complex insights should always be conveyed in a simple language that the broader public can understand. So if you want to reach out, you need to have the tools in the language and how you convey research.
Can I add on that? Because very important point.
Briefly.
It's kind of it's the demand now to do a very clear and concise explanation of what you're doing. If you're going to get research,
We are approaching the end here, so I would like you to add, if you have some take-home messages to the audience. I'll start with you, Gunn-Berit.
Choose your medium. Find the medium that you really are interested in, that you care about. That's the first step, I think.
Choose the medium.
Yeah.
Okay, how about you, Egil?
No, I know that all of you guys watching this show, I mean, you have great things to show the world, and just ask the right people how to do this, and just go out and show your results, and that's my advice to you all.
I think it's important to remember who you are doing outreach for. It's the broader public, bottom up, rather than the head of department, top down. And as long as you remember that, I think that you will be passionate about your outreach.
So find your passion. Today we have discussed research visibility, how it can be important, how it can be difficult, and the benefits. We have gotten several reflections and practical tips from the participants, but the core thing is it's all about communication in one form or another. Next month we will be discussing ethics and open access, and I hope to see you there. And until then, keep the conversation going. And thank you, Siv Gerrit, Egil, and Gunn-Berit.